The digital world moves fast, but real growth comes from real conversations. This is e-Coffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
You're based in the USA. No, where are you based at?
We're Canadian, Vancouver, Canada.
Even
Which
better.
there's a big issue. The reason that comes up as a big issue right now is, of course,
I know.
Trump has said he wants to annex Canada the same way Russia annexed Ukraine. So we're not very popular with some people in the States right now for saying, no, we don't want to be.
Nah, the USA is not very famous right now, right? The Americans themselves, they're making sure. I mean, whenever we talk like the Americans, poor guys, of course, not all of them. I have Russian friends who cried in front of me saying, Victor, I have no fault if my president is a genocide. Of course, not the Americans' fault, but I understand what you're coming from.
We still love Americans. We're just not very fond of the leadership at the moment.
Yeah. Look, that's how I put myself towards religion. I very much like the idea of God. I just don't like how it's being represented from a lot of companies and churches, right? Yeah. That's how it is. How did this change business for you, Daryl? This whole conflict between USA, Canada, USA, Mexico, North America is kind of in a very dire moment right now. Did this change anything at all in regards to crowdfunding in your company?
It does. It's actually had a pretty significant effect. So whenever there's market uncertainty, people get concerned about spending money. And right now with the tariffs and the work that was going on, the disruption of what was happening in the economy, people are feeling worried about whether or not they'll have enough money to get through whatever situation. One of the things that they stopped doing is giving to charity, because it is the ultimate discretionary spend. I'm putting money out for something. I'm basically buying a good feeling for a little while. Yeah. Oh, I've helped make something different. I paid some money for that. I feel good about it, and we move on. But there's no tangible result to it. So your consumer, it's very much discretionary spending on a kind of ethereal or intangible thing. And as a result, so people are not giving as much right now as they would normally give. And we've come through a headwind of high interest rates, high inflation over the last few years. That was just starting to get fixed. And now we have the tariffs, the uncertainty, and all the social strife that's going on in America that's making people very worried about what's happening to their country and their community. And so we see that in our numbers. It's challenging for people. For our causes right now, some of them are down 30, 40, 50% in the amount that they're raising because their community is going, sorry, we can't help you right now.
That's true. Look, not only talking about North America, I'm in Portugal. It's far from Gaza, but closer than I was when I was living in Brazil. And even being closer, the feeling is different. For the first time in my life, I'm actually questioning a lot of long-term decisions. I'm questioning a lot of things, actually. Like, should I do one thing that I will only sue 15 years from now? I don't know. Will there be something to get 15 years from now? Maybe. I'm not saying, I don't think we're gonna get into like nuclear general world war and then nobody will be alive in 15 years. But I believe they will be at least somewhat different.
I think you're guaranteed to have something different. At the minimum level, climate change stuff is really acting. And people go, oh, it's a hoax. It's just normal aberrations in the environment. But even around where we live, we've seen glaciers complete, huge, massive glaciers disappear. And everybody goes, well, it's just warming up. Yeah, but the problem is all that water that would normally be accumulated over the winter and released over the summer is gone. Yeah. And so now we have drought conditions happening, and we have wildfire conditions happening. I mean, smoke from northern Canadian wildfires is spreading all over the world. And it's not like, oh, it's our fault that there's a wildfire here. It's a natural thing, lightning strikes and things like that. There are some that are human generated. But the point is that the impact of all that is going to affect everybody on the planet. It's not localized anymore.
No.
And so we're going to see these changes coming into play, whether it's air quality that we breathe, whether it's we have enough water to maintain our lawns, our properties, our food. There's
Yeah.
a lot of challenges that are come. So I think you're guaranteed to look at 15 years and go, there's going to be some pretty big changes.
Yeah, yeah. As if we take a look, even 10 years ago, it was a lot different than it is right now. Business wise, life wise, no AIs, no people getting burned out because of social media yet. It was still at the beginning of it all. What's
Yep.
going to be in the next 10 years? Look, what I think we can and should discuss, we don't have the power to see the future, but we have the power to take a look at the past and learn from history, right?
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
very much important. So I think, alas, let's just, first of all, we are talking about the crowdfunding space and market. And as you open up saying it is seeing a decline right now because people are getting scared or they're saving their money because something might happen. And you talked about how this is already showing results overall, where you see the decline overall. Is there maybe you won't have like a specific single example, but what's the toughest vertical to serve in the crowdfunding model that can potentially see even bigger declines right now?
Well, there's kind of a crowdfunding works because you can tell a story. And this is really important. You're telling a story about a future that you could have as different. And the more a cause is clear about the impact that the contributor will have, and the more clear they are about communicating that, the more success they have. So
Yeah.
we have groups that are raising money that are not doing very well. And they're not doing very well because I don't know if it's a particular sector, but it's a kind of a particular pattern. And the pattern is that they're not doing a great job of understanding what they do and why it matters to people. They worry about the impact of the work that they're doing. So their clients, if you will, like their poverty reduction or they want to have housing or they have social injustice or there's other areas like that they're trying to fund. But if they can't directly show someone how they're making a difference in that, then it's harder for someone to want to fund them. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we're struggling with some right now. When there's generosity is higher, people will go, I get your mission. Like, I get that you're trying to solve this social rights issue or this food security issue or other things like that. So I can give you some money. When times are tight, they're going, what did you spend my money on? Because I only have a little bit of it and I want to make sure it's used to best impact. So tell me about what my money's going to do, not what you're doing, what my money's going to do, because that's my participation in the cause. Causes that do that really well are growing. It doesn't matter if there's an economic problem because people are looking around going, I want to spend my money wisely. What groups are doing the things that I can see they're making a difference? The word see is very important here. I did a TED Talk on philanthropy as entertainment. And one of the key parts of that was to say that we want to help people visualize the result. It's not an intellectual result. I don't want to think it. I want to see it. And the more I see it, the more likely I am to believe it, and the more likely I am to keep wanting it. But the intellectual stuff gets crowded out by all the noise in social media and what's currently happening in my life and whatever. But when I see a result, I want it. There's a joke in the States, I'm in the show me state. It's a show me kind of thing.
That is true. I used to donate to small local charities back in Brazil where their motto was like, hey, this is the picture. You can be the godfather of a kid. That's what they used to say. You can be like the responsible of this kid. So this is the kid. It's not like a kid. It's Victor. This is Victor. This is his face. He's 3 years
This
old.
is
He
his
lost
history.
both of his.
This is his sister. This is his, where he lives.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you help, we are going to give him dental care. If you donate, see Victor's smile is yellow, we can turn it white. Just giving an example here. But it wasn't about.
It's a great example. And
It
if they
is.
came back and showed you Victor with white teeth and said,
Oh,
by the way, this is Victoria, Victor's sister. Victoria needs new teeth too. You're more likely to give again going, great result with Victor. Let's do that.
I think
again.
I would give it even more.
Yeah,
I think
you
I
would
would.
give more. That's
I would give more.
statistically, that's actually shown. You will give more. You will be more loyal to the cause than you were before when you see the result that was directly attributed to you. Causes have a lot of problem with that because they say it takes too much effort. And they're going, so you're beating your head on a brick wall trying to get people to give you money, and that's easier than telling them the story of the money that they gave. I'm not quite sure that makes sense. But you know how to beat your head against the wall. And so if I just try harder and I beat my head harder, I'll get more money out of the wall. As opposed to, like, why don't you take a step back and say, Hey, Wall, what do you need to know?
Yeah, that's true. You have run more than 200,000 campaigns, right? Across
Our
all
customers have
your.
run more than 200,000 campaigns.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Sorry. Yes, of course. Was there any insights that surprised you about donor behavior besides what we were just talking about, besides the making it more deep, making the connection more deep? Was there something else that surprised you, even positively, in regards to a crowdfunding campaign that we can talk about?
One of the biggest things that was a surprise is never guess ahead of time whether it's going to be successful. Because
Oh,
what we don't know from our vantage point, we can look at two campaigns that are exactly the same in terms of the way they message, the way that they're kind of the impact that they're creating in the end. One of them might be very successful and one of them might not be. And the magic that happens there can be around the community. It can be around the personalities. It can be around that somebody picks it up on social media and just runs with it.
mhm.
And that's just a random occurrence. It's not that you can try and manufacture that, and you should try and manufacture that, but it doesn't always happen. And so sometimes it happens. So we see this on platforms like Kickstarter, where you'll have something become voted by the team. They needed a project of the week, so they picked yours, and it
Okay.
explodes, right? You
Yeah.
just won the Kickstarter lottery, and now you're going to do fine. The same device, the same thing that happened a day later could fail completely. And so that's the randomization of it that is uncomfortable. We're trying to take that randomization out. And
Perfect.
because what we want to have is more, you shouldn't be whether or not you got lucky in getting the result that you're doing to fund your impact project. It should be, if I put the work in and I communicate with my community and I have a strong value proposition that they care about, we should be able to help get you the money you need. That's the premise that we're trying to work towards. So it's a very long answer, but basically, I think the surprising thing is sometimes the amount of timing and luck that happens in crowdfunding campaigns. And I'd say the same thing around entrepreneurship in general. Some folks have said, hey, we are amazing. Look at our team. We did all this great stuff. We created this amazing result and we kill it. We know how to do it. And then they go to do their second entity and they realize that they were lucky and had good timing
Mm,
the first time because the second one flops. Same people, same kind of stuff, but they didn't make it happen the second time because it's a different time. There's a different luck factor, all sorts of things. So taking the random bits of it out is sometimes just be appreciative for when you got lucky too.
You didn't get lucky, right? Because you have three platforms that are crowdfunding platforms. You have Crowdfunder, FundRazr, and Spousify. Am I correct?
No, there's more. So
Oh,
let me tell you that story.
yeah.
ConnectionPoint's the company, okay, and it
I
is a
think the
collaborative.
only, I'm really sorry for cutting you. Hey everyone, this is Daryl Hatton, the CEO and founder of ConnectionPoint since 2008, working with crowdfunding platforms. He's here for some minutes already talking about the market, the current situations. Right now, we are in June 19th. Gaza, super hot. North America, super hot. Super hot. So there you go. Please, Derek, continue. I think right now, at
Yeah,
least we
we should probably
introduce you
introduce
properly.
ourselves. Good point.
This is the introduction that everybody needed. All the links will be down in the description below. The conversation we're having here, I think it already is a very good greeting card about you, yourself, who you are, and what you do. Why don't you walk us through about the platforms that you have?
Happy to. So, just in this, I'm a serial entrepreneur. ConnectionPoint is my most recent thing. And, we've been doing that for quite a while now, like I don't know, we're 15 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
ConnectionPoint is the company and the name of our collaborative commerce platform. So
Okay.
it's our technology that helps us. We put it this way. We help causes and corporations work with consumers to fund impact projects.
Nice.
And what that means is that can be in a whole variety of different areas of the world, kind of aspects of the world. We take that platform to market with multiple brands because we want to help tell the story of specifically why it helps that group more than others. So we have our FundRazr brand, FundRazr. I can say that from Canada, or ZR if you're American. And FundRazr is for personal and professional charity. So it's a lot like GoFundMe, or the professional version of GoFundMe called Classy, or now GoFundMe Pro. So it helps individuals raise money or charities raise money for their projects. We have another brand called Crowdfunder, FUNDR. And crowdfunder is about helping the creative industries. So it produces documentary films or art projects or music projects or graphic novels or comic books or, things like that, or entrepreneurs launching their products. So we had, like last night, it was working with a group that's bringing in high quality organic chocolate from Africa and distributing it in North America. And they're using that to kind of get the money that they need to launch their product. So it can be entrepreneurial as well.
Okay.
We have another brand called CocoPay. And CocoPay is the same technology, but it's used to help pay for medical devices or medical
Nice.
services. And it uses crowd financing model, which is a little different from crowdfunding in that the money goes directly to the device provider or service provider on behalf of the patient. And the advantage of this is it takes away all the opportunity for fraud, and it lets us have better privacy options for the patient in doing what they do. But then you said there's multiple brands. So we have one called PetFunder. Everybody jokes that I don't have an E on my keyboard because none of our brands have an ER on them.
That is.
Yeah, we have. And then we have 100. We have another one called Campaign HQ, which is for political fundraising. And we have about 100 partners that are using our platform for their own communities. And they can have the full power of what we do with our FundRazr or crowdfunder brand, but under their own branding, so that they can support their unique community in a unique way that they need to do it.
But imagine that by now, those that are watching us would ask, why several companies to do different kinds of fundraising instead of centralizing it into one? And I believe that your answer will be very filled with insight. So why is that? Why did you decide to go this route instead of making sure that it's only into one?
Well, it is a question that everyone asks. And first off, to understand, we've helped raise $350 million for about 200,000 projects so far with my team of 12 people.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations.
It's not a huge team. And everybody says, why do you have multiple brands? And we were talking a little while ago, and I can't remember if this is before we started recording or after, but about telling the impact of a story. We have the individual brands because we started our crowdfunder brand because people would come to our FundRazr platform, which is our first, and they go, I hear this is really good at doing my entrepreneurial or creative project, but I don't feel at home here. You're talking charity, donations, and tax receipts. So we said, okay, we'll spin up a crowdfunder brand. And so if you go to crowdfunder, it's all about creators. Hey, Perfect. You're doing your graphic novel. Hey, you're doing all the art projects at Burning Man conference, at the festival. You're doing those kind of things. So it was a message that was simpler for everyone to understand. Hey, I can see how this works for me. And that's the essence of it, is we try to do a very big generic platform with FundRazr, and we realize it causes more confusion with customers than we'd like, because all the extra use cases fall off. They're going, this isn't for me. I didn't see myself when I came here. I didn't see myself in the customers that were here or the success stories. So by focusing it down, it actually made it work better. And it's kind of a version of the niche to win concept. If you focus on a specific niche for your business, you're more likely to do better than if you're trying to do a very broad-based business. We already had a very broad-based platform. So in order to make it niche, we spun up different brands. It's all one company, but all the brands operate as a DBA on that company.
And it makes sense because let me put myself into the shoes of a creator. If I were to ask for a crowdfunding situation, I need money from outside people. And I found myself in a platform where the ad next to mine is somebody who lost their leg. I wouldn't even want that money. No, go save the guy who lost their leg. It's more important than it is to give me $50 to push a new software because of the context, because of the environment. If I were next to another creator, then it's another story.
You're exactly right. And that's actually borne out by research. There was some American researchers, Nora Kenworthy in particular from University of Washington, who did a study on why people were not wanting to use crowdfunding for their medical bills in the United States. And the answer is that when they went to the site, they'd see some story about some child with this incurable cancer or awful scenario. And they went, my problem's not that important. I'll just give up on it. And the thing is, if you ask your friends, they're going, well, hold on, we care about you a whole lot. We would help you fund this. So people would not start a campaign because they felt unworthy or their cause was unworthy compared to the worst scenarios that they're seeing in the whole world. It's not a fair comparison. It's one of the reasons why we started CocoPay, because CocoPay is not about competing with somebody else's cause. It's about using it to rally the support from your friends and family,
Perfect.
those that love you, to help you get through a medical emergency or
I
medical
see.
situation.
I see. And how did you went about marketing the different platforms, Daryl? Because it's well, as we were just talking about, there is a verified need of having separate environments for different needs of crowdfunding. But how did you go about marketing it up?
So that is the flip side, the downside flip side of multiple brands is that it costs you a lot to establish a market brand presence for each one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult in a very noisy environment right now to have a standout brand. GoFundMe is the Kleenex of the issue, right? You know, if you need a
Yeah.
tissue, you go to GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Everyone understands that. We have people using our FundRazr platform that call it their GoFundMe. It's just, it's annoying and it's kind of laughable at the same time because the brand is there all the time, but they call it their GoFundMe because it's what people understand about their brand work has been phenomenal. That's why they've done so well. So it really gets into kind of trying to find the group of customers that care the most about what you're doing. And when we launched Crowdfunder from nothing, the reason we did was we had a bunch of people that were coming off of Kickstarter who said to us, we don't feel at home there anymore. We don't want to work with them anymore. We don't like the way the platform's going. We don't like the way the direction is. Could you spin up? But we don't want to use FundRazr because that is weird. We said, so if we put up a Crowdfunder brand for you, would you use it? And they said, absolutely. So we did. With our technology, is really easy to do. And they were word of mouth advertising and voted with their feet to bring their projects to us to kickstart. They came from Kickstarter to kickstart Crowdfunder. And that is why it got started, is because we had brand advocates basically from day one who came because they took ownership of the idea. This was our platform. We're going to help make it work the way we want with collaboration with a vendor. And as it got going, then people found it was a good experience and they wanted to stay. And it's now starting to get a little bit of organic life in its marketing because, we had tremendous results with Burning Man the last 3 years. And so a lot of the Burning Man projects go, well, who did you use last year? Word of mouth referral. Way easier to do than having to market to other people all over the world. Where do you find them? How do you know who they are? To get a message in front of them. So it's a long answer, but there's depth to that answer is that, a lot of the brands have to come from more organic side. And the other part of that strategy is that we have our enterprise platforms where groups that will market to their own crowd will end up running a platform. And so we basically get their customers through their activities, not through our own. An example of that is we've got funny enough, a government agency in Canada. In one of our provinces, it's Alberta. They have a very innovative program to help teach their nonprofit sector how to fundraise.
Oh, wow.
They give them a platform called Crowdfunding Alberta. Okay. And if the cause signs up, it doesn't even have to be a charity. It can just be a nonprofit, which is important for tax reasons. The charity can sign up or the nonprofit can sign up and they can get a matching grant from the government. As long as they raise more than $2,000, they'll get free money from the government to incentivize them to do the work to learn how to fundraise for themselves. And so far, they've helped hundreds of causes do this and raise millions of dollars in doing it. And so they market to their nonprofits and they bring those nonprofits to the platform and we help them service it.
That's very nice. That's actually
so
very
our
nice.
marketing
It's like a
done by other
marketplace.
people.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. That's actually very nice. Look, one thing that's still in my mind that it's bugging me for the past 15 minutes, 27, we're here already. You mentioned that you have 14 people in the team. And you're talking about it being for ConnectionPoint or only for one of the fundings on one of the platforms? How did you manage to get, what systems or philosophies did you enable to have such growth without bloating the team?
The team has changed size a couple of times over the years. The maximum we got up to was low 20s, like 21, I think it was.
Okay.
And then through like some attrition around different timings of things, when we first started, we didn't understand how to acquire customers because it was the early days of crowdfunding. And it was really weird to try and find the commonality between somebody rescuing their kitty cat, somebody helping fund food programs in Africa, and someone doing an entrepreneurial project to develop the commonality that did not feel like it was there. And so it was really hard as a broad platform to figure out how to bring somebody to us. We didn't have that story down. And so I described that time frame in the business as I was the engineer on the head of a runaway express train. It was going faster and faster, and I'm pulling levers and turning dials, and anything I do doesn't change anything, right? Like I'm not steering in a different direction. There's tracks there, and and I can't see far in the tracks because it's dark. Right?
It's a midnight train even.
It's actually quite an apt metaphor because you don't know if you're going to go off a cliff along the way. And so during that time, we were growing really, really quickly, and we didn't understand how to change it. We kind of were able to figure out a little bit about why. So the result was when it stops working, then you don't necessarily know why it did that either.
Oh, and that makes sense.
Right. And the biggest change that we could see in retrospect was that Facebook was our really hidden secret, in that we could get a campaign of massive visibility on Facebook by the nature of the way Facebook was prioritizing the social sharing that went around causes like ours. Now, in our defense, we'd had an uncommon partnership with Facebook. A little Canadian company ended up being one of the top 30 companies that were invited in as the beta program for the Facebook timeline feature.
Okay, that's very nice. Tell us more.
So I've got a photo of Mark Zuckerberg standing on stage at one of his Facebook conferences with my logo behind his head.
Wow.
As we were up there. And that was one of the reasons why, is that we had some connections established for us deep into Facebook. And they said, okay, we're bringing this new stuff. Do you want to be part of the beta program? Yeah, pick me. Yeah. And away we went. This is back when they were actually, not considered so meta at that point. Right.
I'm thinking circa 2012, 2013. No,
2013
more recently. 13, 14, right?
Yeah, around 13, 14. Okay. And they so we got the visibility, and as a result, our campaigns had a natural competitive advantage.
Yeah.
But it was hard to tell everybody because they were kind of not believing it. At one point, we would have our campaigns have like 20 million visits, not just impressions, but visits in a month. That's because of the amount of Facebook traffic it was driving.
And do you still surf on this wave, or did it change?
It's petered out completely because Meta had to go and make money for Wall Street. And so they stopped the activity feed with ads, and they deprioritized content like ours because it's competitive to the ads. So
and had to redesign the funnel.
From being its greatest strength is now one of its weaknesses. And so one of our R&D paths is, how do we recreate, using the current social media environment, more viral distribution of a campaign? And that's actually one of our strengths now, is we're getting there. And over the next year, I think we're going to make some really big progress there.
I see.
But long answers again, but I think it's a conversation. So
SEO ads, the more traditional, you pay, you receive results later, not working anymore.
Especially around donations. Yeah. How much are you going to pay for an ad to get a $10?
It's not. It does. I don't even know the math how that would work.
It doesn't. You're underwater by about 200-300%.
So it's all social media.
And so one part of the earlier conversation was, if you care a lot about the cause that you're giving to, and in my TED talk I talked about this, when you give, you're flooded. Evolution rewards you for taking care of your community. We get flooded with endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine hormones that are the feel-good hormones. They call it the trifecta, but there's 4 of them. It's quite funny. And as a result, at that moment, especially with getting oxytocin, you're really primed to do something else that's caring. And so the thing to do is, when you get a contribution, you ask, will you tell somebody else about this? And you get social sharing that goes out, because this is a place where people are really motivated to do that. And in doing it, it's very authentic because they're feeling good about the impact that they're just creating, especially we're talking again about creating impact. They're more willing to spread that. Their peer group is more likely to donate to your cause than anybody else because they share common interests. That's part of the definition of peers, right? And social. So it is an effective way to get more people to be aware of a campaign. And our hope is that we can take the concept. This is a big concept, so we may want to put quotes around this for a minute. If you look at the way marketing has been going for the last few years, you're using influencers in order to reach an audience. Some people are huge influencers. Some people are micro influencers. They have a small group and they're trying to grow it. Our position is that everyone who contributes is a nano influencer. And a nano influencer, when they're sharing with their friends and family, they're actually one of the more trusted voices that anybody's going to hear.
Yeah.
And so when they say, this is a cause I really like and this is the impact I created, you might be going, that's cool. I'll do that too.
Because
So,
I think I getting you. I'm sorry to interrupt if you don't mind.
well, please.
I think I get it. It's because like if I myself, Victor, just shared a campaign right now with my friends on my Instagram. I'm not an influencer, so they know that I posted it because it means something. Like Victor usually doesn't ask for money. Victor usually doesn't ask for this kind of stuff. So if he is asking, let me take a look. Is this what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and even you're not necessarily even asking.
Yeah,
As
true.
Victor, you're saying, this is what I just did. We're
I just
herd
help
animals.
here.
We'll all go where the other people go because it saves us time and energy. Victor found a cause he likes giving to. I like the cause. I like what he got. I'll do that too. Count me in. Not you didn't have to say, hey, buddy, come do what I did. Right? That's not it. It's mirroring behavior for other people. So we're trying to use social sciences and kind of human psychology stuff to help increase the way people can effectively fundraise for their cause without having to spend a ton of money on platforms, because it's a tax on everything. And the Google tax on regular commerce right now is way too expensive. To get your lead, most of the value of a lot of businesses got sucked out by Google. The margins got compressed really badly because they're spending so much on lead acquisition and customer acquisition.
Well, I think the natural following question after this would be, then Daryl, how do you make money? Right? Because we're talking about the charities, but now about the platform, about the enabler, you. How do you make your 9 to 5? How do you put bread in your table? How did you manage to make sure that the team is happy?
So we have a funny answer to this. Because it's a charitable sector, people expect it to be free. So we give it away for free.
Perfect.
We let people use the platform. We've invested over $10 million now in building out this technology platform. People think it's a lot easier than it is to do a crowdfunding platform. There's a lot of stuff.
I imagine it must be hard. Otherwise, it would be way more.
Well, there were way more, and most of them aren't here anymore.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. At one point, there were 1,000 competitors that we counted in 1 year that had just launched. It seems like every tech CEO who's run a company before and now exits decides to do a crowdfunding company to give back to the community. And that's one of the reasons why we love doing what we're doing, is we're giving back to the community. But so we give away what we do for free. In other words, a cause can use our platform for free. They pay the payment processing costs with Stripe or PayPal. Not much we can do about people wanting their credit card points, right?
Yeah.
But we can't ask the donor whether or not they'll give a little bit extra to cover that piece, which we do. So it gets to be really, cost of using our platform is less than 1% for a lot of causes, because they can get their contributors to cover the cost of the payment processing fee. And in order to help keep this free for causes, we say, can you help give us a little help to keep it free? And so we get a tip from the platform. Or we can do a fee recovery version where we charge a fee and we ask the donor to cover it. Sometimes that works better for entrepreneurial projects in particular.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
And in doing that, we can give away our platform. We're not a SaaS business. We don't have a per month, per user, per whatever, any sort of fees using it. But we make money on it by helping people do what we do. So part of the foundational things that we have to have in the company, which I think would be interesting to people listening here, is we have to have, as one of our core values, generosity.
That's what I was going to say.
We give away what we do
pays
for free, and if you don't want to pay us the tip, totally fine. It has to be absolutely totally fine, because otherwise it's an expectation. What we rely on is that 8 out of 10 people will leave a tip. But we can't expect any one individual to do it. Obviously, if everybody stopped tipping, we can't do it. But if we can keep delivering good value for the people who are using it, helping solve these problems, people are generous. They're willing to pay. So we have to not only be generous, we have to believe in generosity. And then it works. And everybody goes, okay, how did you get started on that? You just have to kind of take a breath and keep going.
Were there moments where you lost faith in humanity because the donations were stalled? You see, I'm joking here with the losing hope in humanity, but I think you get what I'm saying.
No, I don't think it's a legitimate question. So far, I have not seen. I've actually kind of seen proof of the opposite.
That's great.
Given the opportunity, people will be more generous. And,
That's nice
when
to
we
know.
were talking a little bit before we started recording, talked about if you're giving to a cause and you see the impact, you want to
You're
give
gonna
more.
give more.
I think people are naturally, I believe really deeply that people are naturally want to give more. We want to take care of each other. It's a trained behavior to be selfish, funny enough.
Hmm.
Like, and people go, that can't be true if you're, if you're really starving and hungry. But I watch people that our offices for a while were in a troubled part of Vancouver that has a homeless problem. On the west coast of
Crazy.
Canada, it's one of the few places in Canada you can survive the winter without shelter. And
Okay.
so a lot of people would migrate who had, weren't fitting into society in some form, would migrate to Vancouver because they could live there, and they all congregate in one area. So we would see these folks who have nothing really. They push their belongings around in a shopping cart.
Okay.
But given money or given food, especially food, the first thing they do is share it. Okay, these people have nothing, really nothing. And the first things that they were doing was sharing. Now, it's not everybody, but it's a really good indication that at a core principle, we share. Most kids will share until they're taught to hoard.
Before society corrupts them.
Before society
Right.
gets into their head, me, me,
Yeah.
me, me, me. What do you want today? Oh, honey, can we get that for you? Wait, there's a difference in training when you say, here's some, have some for you, and find somebody else to give some to. You teach generosity, you teach
Hmm.
sharing, you have a way healthier family.
And especially nowadays, it's also a political conversation about donating, right?
Right.
Because you have, look, I know several examples on top of my mind who already criticized me because I'm very much a guy who donates the pennies and quarters on the wallet. But uh I remember one day I was with my father 3 years ago, I think, back in Brazil. And my father, he was a manager in General Motors. So he had a nice job, which meant that he had a lot of money for those non-rich, non-millionaire. He had a lot of money, which also meant he drove a nice car. And I remember clear as day, it was me and him only talking. I don't remember about what. We stopped in the signal and he was inside a Chevrolet S10, which is kind of like the Silverado in the North American market, smaller version. Beautiful car. I think it was around 150 minimum wages back in Brazil to get that car.
Mhm.
And then a guy at the green light, at the red light, stopped and not on the screen asking for change. And my father just didn't bat an eye. He continued talking to me. But then not being like my father, I was already like, I'm sorry, we don't have anything, which was also true because Brazil doesn't have the currency culture. We work with debit and credit cards, mostly credit cards. So people don't
Right.
use change. They don't have money in their wallets anymore. So that was true. We didn't have anything to give the guy. To which he said, and this was all with the windows closed, but we could listen. It wasn't a bulletproof car, so we could listen. And he said, you are in that fancy car, but someday you will go to the grave just like me. He told this to my father. And then I kept that with my mind forever because I know, just like my father, a lot of people don't donate, will never donate, don't mind donating, will never think about donating because those in the street or those in need are just taking as much as they can from the system, from the government, from my tax bill pay. I don't know if there's a term for that, right? So it's also becoming a very political conversation, your market, the market that you are into right now. So my last closing questions to you, Daryl, is what can we expect even right now where people are getting more political? What can we expect and what's on the horizon for charities and the donation market itself? What do you see of it?
Well, I think if we look at a big trend that's going to happen here, which is artificial intelligence taking jobs, then we're going to have people who never expected to lose their job. Hey, they fulfilled society's promise. They went to college, they got a degree, they came out, they worked hard in a company for a bunch of years, and now they're redundant because they've been replaced with a piece of technology. How are those people are like, there's a big topic of people who are unemployed or whatever are undeserving. That's a societal question that really needs to be turned on its head right now. Because there's lots of information that that's not true at all. And it will be even more true in the next 10 years. So how are we going to get through that period of where some people are going to be winners and some people are going to be losers in this? And then it's all going to change. And the people who are winning might be starting losing. And the people who are losing have adapted and figured out how to win.
Yeah.
The best way to get through all this, in my opinion, is that we work harder at taking care of each other. And that's from a charitable point of view, a lot of people say, I don't have enough money to solve the problems in the world.
Yeah.
And totally fair. You don't. We, only together will we stop some of the extraction of value out for a very, very small percentage of people. Do we have enough money available in the general system to take care of everybody? So first problem, we probably got to stop that. But the second thing is that it's just a question of help when you can, to the limit that you can, not to put yourself out of, you don't have to give away everything to solve everybody else's problem. But it presented with a situation where you can help, please help. That's all. If we only do that, most of this will be okay. And
it doesn't take too much, right?
We don't, it can make a big difference in the way we change things every day. And I have to tell you, from a internal feelings point of view, it's really fantastic. It shows up in really simple little ways. And this is going to seem woo-woo to some people. I've decided to not drive as aggressively as I used to. I used to be really kind of get there, get it done, get going. I'm a busy person. I got to get it done. I've taken a little more time to let people turn in front of me, to let somebody cross the road. Man, it feels good. And it changed the course of my trip by maybe 20 seconds over 20 minutes. It didn't do anything to harm me. And all it did is it made the world slightly better for a few milliseconds for somebody. Yeah. It doesn't take a lot to turn it into generosity.
No, I agree. I 100% agree. Being gentle pays so much, not financially speaking, as you said, but my own satisfaction, my own mind. I like, it is, as you said, sometimes I only have not even money, but I can help an old lady cross the street. What a very old example, right? A very old story, such a basic one.
Hold the door open for somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Could be somebody just like you.
One of the things that I very much like, not that I like doing so, I do it because I just do it. But one thing that I notice is how are you doing? Not a lot of people ask this nowadays, right? You go, whenever it is, how are you doing? Thank you for asking. I'm doing great. The thank you for asking gets me every time. This shouldn't be a compliment. We shouldn't be saying thank you for asking how I am. This should be the standard, but it's not. And so we need to at least put that in our minds, like, okay, this is not the standard. Let me make sure that at least for 1 second I ask, how are you doing? Done. Didn't cost me a dime. Didn't cost me my energy. I didn't die. I won't die. But it made somebody else's day so much better. I think this is the concept.
A good parallel to that.
Oh, please share.
That I think you'll like. A lot of people will tell somebody what they should do. Have a good day.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's an imperative. Screw off. I don't want to have a good day. Like, thank you for telling me. You don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Here's an alternative. I hope you have a good day.
I hope you have a good day.
That is a completely different feeling. I'm actually caring about your outcome in a different way.
Wishing you a good day.
In the same way, we if you're giving, we talked earlier, and this is one conversation we should probably revisit before you wrap, is about when you said, for everyone listening, when Victor had me on, one of the first things he did in setting up this conversation was to build some trust by explaining the process, explaining who he was, his motivation for doing it. Is it from a CEO point of view or somebody coming on the show, a fabulous thing. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
But the big thing is about building trust. When I think trust is one of the most important components of what we're going to have in our businesses and our teams now going forward, because there's so much we don't trust in the world. So one of the ways of giving trust is to help someone else understand the value that they have. Many people will give a compliment by saying, "You're amazing." And people who are having trouble with imposter syndrome or other things like that will deflect that in a millisecond. You'll never actually land that punch. You'll never get the benefit of what you're doing, because all they're going to do is turn around. It doesn't match their internal narrative right now. But one of the things that you can do is turn a compliment into a way that they cannot invalidate it. And the way you can do that is you can do things like say, when you do that, I feel much safer. You like, crap, I can't get away from that, because it's my experience that I talked about, not what, like, when you did that, whatever you did, this is how I chose to interpret it. This is how. And so language like that with our teams, when we start using it more, is really, really powerful for building trust, because I'm not trying to make you do something. I'm telling you what's happening when you do stuff. And now you have choices that you can make that are possibly different. I trust that you're actually going to choose a better thing sometimes, and it works. So just a little anecdotes about leadership in building trust is one of the best ways to do it is to give it away. And if I show someone I trust them, they're more likely to trust me.
That's it. That's it. Thank you, Daryl, so much for this amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your life, your market, these lessons themselves. I think this is going to be forever one of my favorite episodes because it really resonated with what I believe.
And Victor, back to what we just said, thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's it, right? That's it. That's it. Thank you for everything. For everyone else who's here still with us, you are going to have all of the platforms we discussed about down the description below, as well as Daryl's profile on LinkedIn. Follow the man, follow the story, follow the platforms, donate whenever you can. I know, as we were saying, a lot of people try and remove themselves from the equation. Like, why would I donate $2? Why would I do that? Why it wouldn't change? Yes, it would. Yes, it will. Right? It will change. It can change somebody's life from being a bad day for a medium day, which is already so much, right? If we are all doing the same, that person's bad day will eventually become a good day. And that's it.
You never know when a small thing will motivate somebody to do something big.
No. And you can never know, so be gentle all the time. I think that's the segue here.
Yep.
That's the best insights from Daryl, the CEO. Thank you, everyone. Catch you on the next time. Thank you, Daryl.
Thanks, Victor.